Minardi.
12 cars in the race, but 8 of them are only out there to make a noise, while the other 4 are leaders around the other side of the racetrack. Because there's only 4 men in this Grand Prix now. Truly Alonso, Michael Schumacher and Jenson Button. Barrichello, don't know what's happened to him lately, but he's a half a minute away from Button in 5th place. And none of them have any particular pace, although Montoya picking his speed up quite nicely. He's back in 7th, having had a very early pit stop. But the 4 of them then, all with a great chance this afternoon still, with 40 laps remaining. Not even at half distance, James.
I know. Well, I don't know about Barrichello. It's his 32nd birthday today, so maybe he's had a bit too much birthday cake or something and doesn't really on it. But certainly it's a strange performance by Rubens Barrichello. No doubt about that. 42 seconds already behind the race leader with only half the Grand Prix run, and he is driving a Ferrari after all. Trulli then 2.4 up on Alonso. Schumacher 5 seconds behind the second of the 2 Renaults. Jenson Button closing him down at the moment.
You know what really strikes me looking at this Grand Prix and this season so far? Renault, Ferrari and BAR, 3 teams that really have a good concord, a good feeling and working relationship within the team. No politics, nobody on the exit route, and really no internal political squabbles. 3 teams that are just focused on performance, and look how much it's showing up.
I tell you what's interesting as well, they say one of the most important things in a Formula 1 team is stability, and certainly the Ferrari success of the last 6 years is a great example of that. But Renault lost a key player over the winter when Mike Gascoigne, the technical director, jumped ship and went over to Toyota, and a lot of people felt that the Renault team wouldn't enjoy the same success in 2004 that they had last year, because well, Gascoigne's a pretty big player, let's face it. But Bob Bell, who's taken over as technical director, hats off to you, Bob, because this team is firing on all cylinders and looking very strong at the moment, and that's quite an achievement to come in. And Ralph is in the pit lane.
Ted.
Yeah, you're right about the tyres. The tyres were fine. I was just listening to see what it is. The engine's still going. I think it's probably a hydraulics or a gearbox. I think he's only got a few gears in that Williams gearbox.
Yeah, you could be right. I noticed he fumbled a gear shift past us a couple of laps ago too. So Ralph clearly with an ailing car, and his teammate coming up the hill to lap him, actually.
Yeah. Ralf Schumacher appeared to have been involved in that incident with Coulthard and Fisichella, the accident around the Takuma Sato retirement, and certainly made a lengthy pit stop at that point. That's one of the reasons why Ralf Schumacher is so far behind in this Grand Prix. Down in 10th place at the moment. The other reason, of course, being that he started 12th on the grid, having had to change an engine during the course of the Grand Prix weekend. Here's the 2 race leaders then. Alonso closer to Trulli now. So any theories of him easing off, quickly disproven. They're both lapping exactly the same pace, a mid 1 minute 15, which is the identical pace of Michael Schumacher as well.
No, they're asleep, not because they're lazy, because they've just been working so hard. It's so hot here and it's a difficult environment. And did Alonso get past the Toyota coming into, otherwise they're going to lose a bundle of time there. He just started to home in on Trulli's lead. Alonso putting a bit of a spurt on, although the top 4 still remain pretty even Stevens on lap time. And yes, he did just about get past the Toyota. Alonso in 2nd place to lap him, but I think he's cost him dearly. Let's have a look. 2 or 3 tenths only, so Alonso lives for another day. The lead just 2.1 seconds truly to Alonso. Michael Schumacher a further 5.4 seconds down the road in 3rd. Button within 10 seconds of the lead and with 2.5 of Michael, and he's just done his fastest lap of the race, James. So Jenson happy with the track, happy with his car.
Happy generally. We're riding with the 2nd place man, Fernando Alonso, into the Lowe's hairpin.
You lean? I always lean when we're on board. I don't know, that's stupid.
I noticed that.
I lean my head over, as if I'm there.
Louise is down in the garage with poor old David Coulthard, who was involved, hit very hard at the back by Fisichella. How's he feeling, Lou?
I don't suppose he's feeling too happy, James. Let's ask the man himself. David, not much you could do about that, really, was there?
No, it was just an unfortunate situation, but I have to say Sato was smoking on the way to the on the parade lap. He also jumped the start by a mile, absolutely no question, because I almost went with him when he moved. So I'm very surprised there wasn't something there, and he continued to smoke. So I know it's not normally a policy to retire a car until there's a problem, but you can see that the team have retired Kimi because they can see eventually the engine is going to blow. The consequences of that around Monaco are pretty dire, and you can see there with zero visibility behind Sato's blow-up, it was very dangerous for other cars. So I think it's just an example of Bar being a young team, and you know, they're growing, they're doing a great job in terms of performance, but sometimes you just need to say, look, we can see on the data the engine isn't going to make it, and we were all very lucky today not to have a serious accident.
Were you surprised at the speed that Fisichella came into the back of you at?
Yeah, I couldn't see anything in the smoke, you know. I was thinking of that Days of Thunder movie where they say go high and all that sort of thing, but I actually thought the blow-up would be on the right-hand side, but as you can see on the screen now, if I kept going on the right-hand side, that's where Sato would stop. You couldn't see anything, so I think Fizzy just took too big a risk. And it's, you know, it's obviously very disappointing. I love this circuit, and it was...
Whoa, sorry to interrupt you. We've got Fernando
laps.
Alonso who's gone off. It looks like he's come out of the tunnel backwards, and a very big impact for the Renault driver. Second place, Fernando Alonso. And
safety car is out. Safety car on the track. Alonso's dropped it on the exit of the tunnel. I wonder if he clipped that curb under braking. That is so odd for him to have. No, look, let's watch this. Oh, he's gone offline, passing a car in the tunnel, got on the marbles and straight in the wall. So he's had his accident in the middle of the tunnel, lapping the Williams. And I have to say, that's a pretty inexperienced thing to do, to try to go round the outside of somebody in the tunnel. It's always going to be filthy dirty out there. And he's having his accident and still giving the Williams driver the bird. Amazing.
Well, that's an indication of how angry he is. Into the pits then comes Jenson Button. This is out of the pits, in fact, playing a tactical game then. He's made a quick pit stop, presumably his last one of the day. There's quite a bit of debris here to be cleared up, and that's dropped Button a long way back behind Michael Schumacher, but there Alonso clearly unhappy with Ralf Schumacher.
Well, maybe he was holding him up earlier on in the race, and I don't know if Alonso lost his head or maybe thought, hey, one brother's helping the other here, but you do not go around the outside of somebody in the tunnel. Not maybe once, never would you attempt to do that.
Just explain what you mean about the marbles and stuff on the outside of the...
Just all the rubbish and debris, and the obviously they have very high tyre wear, as truly the leader pits, very high tyre wear, and all those bits of rubber get flicked off, particularly in the high-speed areas, and it just congregates on the outside of the racetrack. And away he goes then. So now, and that's extra bad news for Jarno Trulli. Now he doesn't have a rear gunman at all to fend off Michael Schumacher,
who has gone through, did not pit under the safety car, Michael Schumacher, and he leads the Grand Prix here in Monaco. There you can see they've picked up now, finally, they've picked up the safety car, and it looks like there's one car between Trulli and Michael Schumacher.
Yeah, and I think Ferrari will feel they've made a mistake there, because he got so quickly picked up by the safety car. Trulli's pitted and had a net loss of nothing virtually. He'll be straight with him. And look, you can see the rubbish I'm talking about on the outside of the racetrack, and he's going to have an almighty shunt. It wasn't that it spun, it just understeered clean off into the wall, and I can tell you that's pretty scary at 180 miles an hour. Now watch this, he's still a long way from finishing his lap, and he's saying, that's the last time you're going to do that to me, my friend, but I'm afraid you shouldn't have done that. He'll feel, though, having said that, I need to watch that again. Did Ralf lift in the tunnel? Because that's also pretty stupid, unless, of course, he's got a gear shift problem.
Well, he certainly braked pretty quickly after Alonso hit the wall. Ralf Schumacher knocked all the speed off that car, because Trulli came out backwards in front of the Williams, even having hit the wall. So that's an incident they'll be talking about after the race with Jim and Mark and Tony, and for many weeks to come as well. A very angry Alonso retires. That's the order. Still a lot of racing to go here in Monaco. .33 laps to go here in Monte-Carlo. This is the reason why we're behind a safety car. Ralf Schumacher there on the left. Alonso goes to lap him, gets offline, gets on the dirty stuff, little bits of rubber and dirt and dust, and it hits the wall very hard, 180 miles an hour. There you can see it, the impact with the outside wall. Ralf Schumacher rubs off speed there, and certainly the anger of Alonso after the incident would suggest that caught him by surprise. Martin Brundle says but it's a crazy thing to do, go around the outside, and that's an incident we'll be talking about for a long time. The upshot of it is we're behind a safety car. Jarno Trulli, who was leading the Grand Prix in front of Alonso at that point, he made a pit stop under the safety car. It's a less expensive time, if you want, in time to make a pit stop. Ferrari and Michael Schumacher have not done that. They are leading the Grand Prix, and the restart will be any moment now. The safety car in this lap.
Yes, the safety car picks up whoever comes along, and then it lets those runners through that have been lapped until they get to the leader, who is Michael Schumacher. It worked beautifully for Jarno Trulli. He pitted, came back out, but they'd all been bunched up behind the safety car just at the top of the hill, and immediately got back into, he's now obviously running there to one car behind Michael Schumacher. So I think this has worked out very nicely for Jarno Trulli, even though he doesn't have track position right now. Ted.
This is bad news for Michael Schumacher's strategy. He wasn't in his pit stop window, Martin. He's been forced to stay out. This could really hurt him. Quits in, he'll try and streak away at the getaway at the restart, try and get some distance on Jensen. But Jensen doesn't have to stop again. Of course, he did stop under the safety car.
Yeah, and I think fuel windows go out of the window when there's a safety car like this, and the safety car appearing.
Oh, hang on, this is Michael Schumacher. Michael Schumacher has had an incident in the tunnel, has hit the wall and has knocked off his left front wheel, and Michael Schumacher is out of the Monaco Grand Prix. What on earth happened there? We're not even racing.
It's a big impact too. Has he been trying to warm his tyres up? The safety car was in this lap, we know. Michael's been trying to get some heat in the tyres and brakes, and a big impact with the front of... Was that another car he passed down there too?
Like it. It was probably Fisichella's car. They pulled back, is it? I don't know.
Yeah, Alonso, maybe Alonso's Renault. But the race is underway then. Michael Schumacher, I'm absolutely sure, will be out of the race for that one with the damage to the front suspension. Well, hopefully they've got it somewhere on tape, and we can see what on earth went on. Did he get caught up in some debris in the tunnel from Alonso's incident? Schumacher then, with an error, getting ready to restart the race. Here we go, and there's the safety car, and Michael's locked up his left front and squeezed somebody against the barrier who spins him out. Montoya was going for it, didn't realise that the Mercedes car had slowed down and caught Michael Schumacher, who spears off into the wall that Alonso has recently scarred anyway. That was triggered by Montoya.
Well, what a bizarre incident. Absolutely extraordinary. You saw Michael Schumacher locking up his brakes there. So clearly whatever the safety car was doing, it caught Schumacher by surprise. Maybe he put a little squirt on and then he hit the brakes. I mean, Montoya... Michael was on the brakes when Montoya hit him.
Here we go again, and Michael's trying to warm the tyres up. He then backs off. The safety car's gone quite slow then. Michael's really having to slow down. Montoya just couldn't do any... It was Montoya, I think, couldn't do anything about it, and he just was carrying too much speed. And there you see it all happening behind the safety car. Not a lot Michael could do about that. They all got sucked into pushing in the tunnel, and it's... The camera sees better in there than the human eye. Michael Schumacher then in the pits, Ted.
Yeah, Michael absolutely furious, talking to his engineer Chris Dyer. All the Williams guys were standing outside their garage, almost willing him to come on, saying, come on, come down if you want to have a word with us, come down. But Michael's staying cool. Jean Todt now getting in there. I'm sure Jean Todt will have words with Williams, because that is very unfortunate. Helmet off. The run comes to an end for Michael Schumacher then.
So both incidents involving the two Williams drivers. Alonso's incident involving Ralf Schumacher in the tunnel, and just a couple of laps later, under the safety car, the Williams have Juan Montoya involved in this incident with Michael Schumacher. Oh, I think that was Michael's helmet hitting the wall.
It's so easy. I have to say, it's so easy. Even Jenson Button did that. As you remember, he ran into Michael back in 2000, warming his tyres up. The acceleration of these cars is so incredible, even if you've won as many races as Michael Schumacher's 75, and it can just catch you out. If suddenly the whole lot backs up, you're busy looking and sorting yourself out, bang, and it's a pathetic feeling. But I guess the blame lays at the door of Montoya there, although Michael himself was pretty much struggling to slow down. Underway we go, truly, from Button and Barrichello. Montoya went round in fourth, but quite slowly on that first lap. Has he got some damage? D'Amata fifth, Massa sixth, Heidfeld, Ralf Schumacher and Panis. 9 runners, and now 10 with Baumgartner out there somewhere.
Well, what a race this is turning out to be. We were writing off the chances of Rubens Barrichello about half an hour ago. 40 seconds down on the race leader he was. Now, he's only made one pit stop compared to the 2 of Trulli and Button, but he's only 8 seconds behind the race leader in the sole remaining Ferrari and 3.4 behind Jenson Button. A great opportunity then for Jarno Trulli and Jenson Button to win their first Grand Prix, but opportunity well and truly knocked for Michael Schumacher, and that's one angry man making his way back to the paddock. And well, hopefully Louise will dive in for a word. She's a brave girl.
You can't win them all, Michael, but what impresses me about him is he'll be taking so much pain from that. He does want to win them all, but no, your eyes do not deceive you. Trulli is leading, Button is second. That Williams and between them has, and there are several cars, has been lapped. So Jenson Button's got to make his way past some lap traffic before he can get anywhere near race leader Jarno Trulli. Now he's 6 seconds adrift. Jenson's got 2 Williams, 2 lapped Williams between himself and Jarno Trulli.
And we all know it's not the easiest thing this weekend, or certainly this afternoon, to deal with these Williams. They've both been involved in these incidents. Here we are then, on board with Jenson Button, trying to win our first Monaco Grand Prix, trying to win our first Grand Prix at all. And coming up behind Ralf Schumacher, former teammate of Jenson Button's at Williams back in the 2000 season. Getting the blue flags is Ralf. Oh, here we go in the tunnel. Falls well over this time, no such luck.
He slowed right down at the beginning. That's how to do it. If you're going to slow down in the tunnel, do it very early and very slowly. You can't coast through there. In fairness to Ralf, I think he does have some, well, we know he's got some kind of drama going on inside the cockpit, but that is how you let somebody through in the tunnel, not how he did it with Alonso.
Cristiano De Mata, we saw just lining up behind them. That's Jock Clare, I believe, race engineer for Takuma Sato, who's presumably now working on Jenson Button's race effort.
Where was he? Was he down at Williams?
Yes.
Right, he was down at Williams saying, hey, make sure your guys, you're telling your guys on the radio, let Jenson through, please. He's passed one of them already.
Well, he carries a bit of weight at Williams, does Jock Clare, having worked there for many, many years. Race engineer to Jacques Villeneuve in the championship-winning season of '97. They all know Jock pretty well. Here we go then, up the hill, 160 miles an hour, turning left into Massenet then, and the Casino Square, all the rich people hanging out from their balconies, the Café de Paris on the right, down the hill, the tip-top restaurant famous on the right-hand side there, the Mirabeau corner, and the Monte-Carlo Grand Hotel, as it's now known, formerly known as the Lowe's. And Ted has some news for us at Williams.
Yeah, Montoya's been on the radio to explain his side. He sounded almost apologetic, I'm told, from the team. He didn't understand what Michael was doing. Apparently, Michael just stood on the brakes to try and get some temperature into them. And Montoya just plain didn't see him, tried to avoid him. But of course, the Mercedes safety car was in there, and Michael sort of tripped over that, and Montoya just went straight into him, almost sounded sorry.
Yes, if Michael had seen him coming, because he actually then squeezed Montoya. But I have to say, they both needed to slow down for the safety car too. It looked like the safety car slowed as well. But there's already been a bit of a head-to-head, hasn't there, with Montoya and Michael. They're not the best of friends by a long, long way. And that is not going to enhance it at all.
We've got a drive-through penalty for car number 16. That is Cristiano De Mata. What a shame for him. We mentioned him earlier on. He'd had a terrific start to this Grand Prix. Got himself up from 15th on the grid to 7th earlier on. He's now, as a result of all these retirements of Alonso and Michael Schumacher, was up in 5th place, but ignoring the blue flags as Trulli and Button came through, costing him a drive-through penalty. That's about 20 seconds that's going to cost him, and that will drop him down probably into 8th place.
Amazingly, despite having been involved in everybody else's incidents today, Williams have got 2 cars running in 4th and 8th, both in the World Championship points, and that is why Ralf Alonso is plodding around with an obvious problem, because you can still pick up some World Championship points. It's always the case at Monaco. You've got to just keep going round and round. 26 laps remaining then. Truly 6.7 ahead of Button, and quite quickly Barrichello, who's really been off the pace for whatever reason, maybe something inside the car, but Barrichello in 3rd, 15 seconds behind already.
You can see Sauber getting out of the way of Rubens Barrichello. He's dropping behind now. His last lap almost 3 seconds slower than the race leaders Trulli and Button. Button is 6.7 behind Jarno Trulli at the moment. Doesn't seem to have the pace in the BAR, although that last lap he took half a second out of him, I have to say. So is Button muscling up for a real hard push at the Renault driver. we're riding on board with third-place man Rubens Barrichello, giving away another second and a half there to the race leaders.
That's another aspect. You saw him go into the shadow of the canopy of the trees and not trees, but buildings, apartment buildings down there. It really does, and again at Casino Square, as the race unfolds, the track sort of changes in front of you, James, in terms of grip level, in terms of the shadows, and it's just another feature of this brilliant racetrack.
10 runners still going then. Trulli, Button, Barrichello, Montoya, D'Amato 5th, yet to serve his drive-through penalty. Massa 6th, 7th Heidfeld, and 8th Ralf Schumacher. Good news for the Jordan team if Heidfeld can stay there. That'll be their first World Championship points of the season so far. And it'll be the first points also for the Toyota team if D'Amato can salvage something from this afternoon. He's in 5th at the moment, but yet to serve that drive-through penalty. Ralf Schumacher in 8th place. Olivier Panis is 9th. And Zsolt Baumgartner in the sole remaining Minardi, 3 laps down, lapping in the 1:24s, where Trulli's doing 1:17s, but he's still going, and he's in 10th. And if we have any more business like we've had in the race so far, he might even get a point here this afternoon.
He might indeed. As you say, 10 runners. D'Amato's pitted to serve his penalty for ignoring the blue flags, i.e. not getting out of the way of the leaders at some point during the Grand Prix. Out of the race, Michael Schumacher, who had one of those incidents like pulling away from a roundabout and stopping and somebody just running into the back of you, didn't he, in the tunnel? Michael out, Alonso trying to lap Ralf Schumacher, went around the outside of him in the tunnel. Raikkonen, technical problems. Bruni, he stopped in the pits, we don't know why. Same for Pantano, he stopped out at the Seafront chicane where Jarno Trulli is now. Webber, mechanical problems at the end of the lap. Sato, big blown engine. Coulthard, run into the back of by Fisichella, and Klein crashed on the first lap. They're the 10 retirements, and the reasons for them, truly 6.1 seconds ahead of Jenson Button. Barrichello remains an easy and comfortable third.
Yeah, the last lap, Trulli comes through now, but the last lap they were identical on pace, Trulli and Button, very low 1:17s. That last lap almost identical again. Trulli has had this reputation in the past for letting his pace drop off in Grand Prix, but no such trouble here this afternoon. He's found some new speed and consistency in his driving, has Jarno Trulli. And Jenson Button at the moment has no real reply. He's going as fast as he can. Their lap times are within 1/10 of each other at the moment, and that's why the gap is staying at around about 6, just under 6 seconds.
I still think Ferrari had made a mistake, though, in that pit stop, James. They ended up being the leader, is what caused the accident, but you couldn't foresee that. But, you know, Trulli was right there with him, had changed tyres, got a tank of fuel, and saved himself a 20-second stop. I think Ferrari will feel, and we're never going to know now, but I think they'll feel they made quite a critical error there.
Well, I mean, we talk about pit stop windows, but we reckon that Trulli was probably about 6 laps away from his second fuel stop. So Renault obviously decided it was worth making the call and bringing him in. Michael Schumacher, we reckon, had perhaps another 3 or 4 laps of fuel in his car. So maybe he was 10 laps away from his second stop. Obviously, Ross Brawn and the Ferrari team deciding that that was not the right timing for them, as Ferrari ready for Rubens Barrichello, whose strategy this afternoon, once again, as it was in Barcelona, quite different from everybody else's, carrying more fuel at the start of the Grand Prix and pitting at a different time from the other front runners.
So one remaining Ferrari then, Michael Schumacher out of the Grand Prix. He will not be beating Nigel Mansell's. He's matched it, but he will not be beating Mansell's record of making it 6 consecutive wins. Barrichello pits from third. He's way ahead of Montoya, who's fourth. Montoya lapping about the same speed as Trulli and Button now, so he's obviously had no damage with that collision with Michael. Most of Michael's damage was done against the wall rather than against Montoya. But Jenson Button has just taken 0.6% out of the lead of Jarno Trulli. He's now down to 5.5 behind.
Jenson's on a charge. Hopefully we'll follow it soon. And you'd have to say that Patrick Head and Frank Williams, sitting down there in the Williams garage, will be looking at Montoya's pace and saying, hang on a second, this is lap 56, the Monaco Grand Prix. We've got a car that's on the same pace as the race leaders. Why aren't we leading the race ourselves? What's gone wrong with us this weekend? That Montoya and Ralf Schumacher qualified 9th and 12th. They just haven't been really in it at all, and yet the car seems to have plenty of speed in it. Obviously not at the right times when it really matters, is the answer to that.
Yep, Montoya Trulli lapping now in the 1:16s. He's almost seems to have backed off. He was able to do 1:15s earlier on. There's a lot of debris. Here you're going to see a replay of the incident. Michael Schumacher with his left front locked. He is actually a long way behind that safety car from that angle. So it was Michael giving himself some brake warming up in the tunnel. Now that is not actually very smart, is it? I don't know about the distances, the relative distances. I wondered if that Mercedes slowed down the pace car, but actually it looks more like Michael was trying to warm his brakes up in the tunnel. If so, he doesn't have a word to say to Juan Pablo Montoya.
Why would he be warming his brakes up in the tunnel, or anywhere for that matter?
Well, because they'll be around 300 degrees centigrade, coasting around 250, something like that, coasting around behind the safety car, and they need to be 600-700 to work properly, and you've got to get some brake temperature in. You saw how easy he just snatched a brake trying to warm them up in the tunnel itself, but there's no brake lights on a Formula One car. You don't know when the bloke in front of you is braking.
But doesn't it rely on the guy behind having sort of telepathic knowledge you're about to do it, especially when they're that close as they were in the tunnel? It seems a very odd thing to do, unless he was perhaps just trying to buy himself a bit of space. There's Naomi Campbell, supermodel, former girlfriend of Flavio Briatore, whose driver, Jarno Trulli, is leading this Grand Prix. And, well, we've seen Trulli in the past. He led in Spain the first stint of 9 laps a couple of weeks ago. Last year, remember, he led at Silverstone before the track invasion. That really cost him the Grand Prix victory there last year. And way back in '97, when he was driving with the Prost team, he led in Austria very comfortably for most of the race until his engine blew up. As I said before, he'd led 61 laps going into this race, but never the last one. And with every lap that ticks down now, just 20 to go, he's getting closer and closer to that dream first victory.
Yeah, but so is Jenson Button getting closer to him, gap down to 5.2. And the good news for Jenson is that Montoya is quick and is not going to come into play here. As soon as he gets behind him, Montoya's got to get out of his way anyway. But at the moment, Jenson unquestionably has got 2 or 3 tenths. He's had a bad middle sector looking at that. He's 3 tenths slower in the middle sector than Trulli. So has Trulli been able to respond? But Jenson's been relentlessly closing that gap.
Well, comes through then to complete lap 58. Does Jarno Trulli? Let's have a look what the margin is at the moment. Trulli to Button has gone out a little bit. It's cat and mouse at the moment, isn't it? Trulli then leading Button. Barrichello third, Montoya fourth, Felipe Massa fifth, De Mata currently in 6th place. 17 laps to go at Monaco. Has it been an interesting Grand Prix? Well, there's certainly plenty happened. We had a delayed start. Olivier Panis couldn't get his car to go in the right grid slot. Then when we got going, Takuma Sato made an incredible start, jostled Michael Schumacher out of the way and seemed to be going well before his engine blew up. And then in the smoke, David Coulthard and Giancarlo Fisichella tangled. Fisichella flipped upside down into the barriers at the Tabac. He's perfectly okay. So is David Coulthard. We had a safety car. The 2 Renaults then dominated, Trulli leading. He's led most of this Grand Prix here this afternoon, ahead of his teammate Fernando Alonso. Michael Schumacher managed to pass Jenson Button in the first round of pit stops. The BAR team not quite as slick perhaps as the Ferrari. Michael Schumacher also mesmerizingly quick in that period around the first pit stops. Kimi Räikkönen retired once again. David Coulthard told us it was because his engine was going to blow up. And certainly then 2 very odd incidents that we'll be talking about for quite some time to come. First of all, Fernando Alonso lapping Ralf Schumacher, hits the wall at the outside of the tunnel. 180-mile-an-hour accident. Very, very strange incident indeed. Appeared to feel the need to go round the outside of the Williams while lapping him in the tunnel, which has really never been attempted before. And then under the safety car to clear that mess up, Michael Schumacher and Juan Montoya had another bizarre incident. Schumacher locking a brake, appearing to be caught out, perhaps, I don't know, the safety car perhaps slowed down. Whatever happened, Montoya had no inkling it was going to happen and ran up the back of him, which pushed Michael Schumacher into the wall and into the first retirement of the 2004 season. His first retirement since Brazil last year. He's not going to make it 6 in a row at the start of this season. It's between Jarno Trulli in the Renault and Jenson Button, here he is in the BAR Honda with 16 laps to go. Which one of these 2 men is going to win their first Formula One Grand Prix here this afternoon?
Button just 4.8 seconds adrift now. Took 6 tenths out of Trulli on the previous lap, pushing like crazy he is now. Trulli's got, it's much easier to chase than be chased, isn't it? I notice Jarno Trulli is short shifting the engine as well, just knocking a few revs off between each gear shift, looking after the car. Let's assume that in the panic of the safety car situation, that BAR and Renault both got the correct amount of fuel in to get them to the end of the Grand Prix. Ted is down in the pits with Jock Clare from BAR.
Yeah, down here with, well, he's just gone onto the radio actually, but Jock Clare's been in and out of the Williams garage. Jock, what are you doing in there?
Well, obviously, at the moment we've got Montoya between us and Trulli. Montoya's not in a fight with anybody. It won't cost him much to just let us go as soon as he sees us in his mirrors. We can't afford to get stuck behind him even for half a lap. We've got a bit of performance on Trulli, and we've got a bit more to come from the engine, and we want to be able to use it with Trulli, not use it with Montoya.
Well, you really think Jensen's got a chance of actually passing Trulli on the track?
Probably not, but we have got a chance of putting pressure on Trulli, and we see Alonso made a mistake, and Trulli is going to make a mistake as well, only if we pressure him.
Well, you got what you wanted, Jock, because the Williams has just pulled right out of the way, and Montoya lets through the man who he replaced at the Williams team a couple of years ago, back in 2001, in fact, and Jenson Button now free to attack Jarno Trulli with 15 laps to go. Meanwhile, a bit further back, we've got two drivers, Ralf Schumacher and Olivier Panis, battling for 8th place. They are 2 laps down on the leader, and it's not often in a Formula 1 race you can say that being 2 laps down, you've got a chance of a point, but one of those 2 men will take home a point this afternoon. Panis catching Ralf Schumacher for that final point at around about a second a lap. Toyota looks set to get their first points of the championship with D'Amata in 6th place, and Eddie Jordan looks set to get some points as well today. 2 at the moment for Nick Heidfeld, who's had a wonderful afternoon. 17th on the grid, he's kept it out of trouble. He pitted at the right time under the first safety car, which was the right time to pit, and he's currently in 7th place and looking good.
Yes, Button lost a 10, still going the long way around Montoya. The gap, 4.8 seconds, as Ted was pointing out. Catching's one thing, passing is quite another. But as Jock very correctly pointed out too, you've got to put pressure. This is a pressure game. You're either giving it or you're receiving it, and they want to be there. I think, like me, he sensed that Trulli is short shifting the engine, and they're obviously very happy to let Johnson max out with his motor this afternoon. You've got to win this one, haven't you? If you've got half a chance, this is the Grand Prix every Grand Prix driver most wants to win.
Well, Bernie Ecclestone has organised a parade down Regent Street in London shortly before the British Grand Prix to just publicise the event a little bit on the 6th of July between 6 and 8 p.m. if you fancy going down and seeing some Formula 1 cars driven at parading speeds. Here on the streets of Monte-Carlo, it's not a parade, it's a dogfight between Trulli and Jenson Button. Both men at the moment at the top of their game. Both men with a tremendous amount of motivation and confidence going into this Grand Prix. They both feel they're driving well. Both of their teams have provided them with excellent racing cars for the last few Grand Prix, and this is their moment. One of them will come out on top here this afternoon.
10 runners, 2 contenders. Jenson very calm at the wheel, not letting the car move at all. He's very much, him and Coulthard particularly stand out for how they don't like to let the car start sliding. It's almost deceptively fast how they drive, but at the moment he can't improve that gap. It's 4.9 seconds. Trulli has just about got the measure of him. 13 laps to go, including the one they're on.
Looking very relaxed there in the BAR garage. They're almost getting used to success now. String of podium finishes they've had of late. Jenson Button, 3rd in Malaysia, 3rd again in Bahrain, 2nd in San Marino. Dropped the ball a little bit 2 weeks ago in Spain in qualifying, but managed to recover well to finish 8th. That was the day when Jarno Trulli got his first podium of the season in Barcelona, and look how he's built on that. Pole position here yesterday and leading almost the entire Grand Prix here this afternoon. Beautiful onboard shots there. Slowest part of the racetrack. Lowe's hairpin. There's Button. The gap, he can see him. It must be so tantalising for him. But by the time he comes out of Portier, sees the big ocean liners with all their passengers from the USA. It's the most popular race of the year, actually, outside of North America, for Americans to come to Europe and soak up the atmosphere of Grand Prix racing. A lot of big hitters in the paddock as well on these boats this weekend. We saw Martin talking to Roman Abramovich, one of the wealthiest men in the world, but there's a lot of very rich people here as well, big captains of industry, Lots of sponsors eyeing Formula One up. I spoke to the CEO of one major oil company, thinking very much about coming in. Another big electronics company as well, also thinking of coming in. So this is the place to bring the big cheeses, to woo them, to try and get them to sponsor your car. And certainly David Richards of the BAR team saying that they're lining up, they're queuing up now to sponsor BAR with the success they're enjoying at the moment.
You can see the gap is squeezed out, look, 5.15. Trulli really does have the pace, and he doesn't look flustered with it either, does he? Moving away from that nasty bump on the way down to Mirabeau. The front of the Renault's superb there. So hard to get a car to follow that line of corner in the Mirabeau. And, Jensen, as you say, tantalisingly close, James, but he can't get any closer.
Well, one thing that's for sure this afternoon is that if either Trulli or Jenson Button wins this Grand Prix, we're going to have 10 Grand Prix winners in the field. Flavio Briatore there, Christian Silk, the man in the middle with the fireproof overalls on and the beard. He's in charge of the test team at Renault, and he's the man who was doing all that excellent work at Paul Ricard in the last few weeks to improve this Renault chassis, which certainly made a huge difference here this weekend.
This might help Jensen's cause. Two cars. Are they fighting? No, they're not fighting each other, but they'll be getting the flags to let the leader through. He does a 1:16.8. Jenson Button does a 1:15.8. The gap down to 4.1 seconds now. One of Jensen's better laps too, but Trulli already safely clear of one of the back markers. They've now lapped the entire field at least once, with the exception of Barrichello in third place, who's a full minute behind the leader. But again then, Trulli losing time in the slow section. No, he's not going to turn in front of you, for goodness sake.
That's Heidfeld in the Jordan, running in 7th place at the moment. Obviously didn't see the wave blue flags. Hopefully he's seen him now. He's still in front of Trulli, and Trulli's going to have to try and pass him in the tunnel. Well, we know what happens if you try that. He's got past him already. There's Jenson Button now, and Button has really closed the gap to the race leader thanks to this traffic. He's now got to get past the Toyota and the Jordan, and this isn't an easy part of the racetrack to do it. Get out of the way, he'll be screaming in his helmet.
Yeah, and he's got to keep a cool head. This is the moment. I've crashed in a Grand Prix before now where your focus goes on them and your anger instead of the piece of racetrack that you're on. Heidfeld appears to have been in everybody's way today, doesn't he, with the Jordan, and still he's trying to keep it on the racing line and still threaten to turn in on Jensen. But nonetheless, where's it going to shake out in terms of lap time? He still, I think, is going to have the gap down to a bit over 3 seconds. Where is it? 3.5 then. So he's moving in.
Yes, he gained 0.6 of a second. That's all he managed to get as a result of that. Flavio Briatore for making his feelings clear about the traffic. It's only 0.6, Flavio. Keep your hair on. Look at the intensity with which these two men are driving now. This is great stuff. That's the Minardi that Trulli has just passed. Here comes Button to pass it too. Baumgartner stays well out of the way. Button can almost smell the exhaust fumes coming out of the back of this Renault now. He's on a Mansell-esque charge.
Yeah, sensible driving there from the back marker. Button underway. Hey, listen, if a Ferrari's not going to win a Grand Prix this year, there's big stakes. You've got to be the one that does. You can't miss opportunities like this with Ferrari on such stellar form in 2004. And Flavio Briatore is very, very aware of that.
Very anxious to win another Grand Prix. His last victory at Hungary last year with Fernando Alonso. BAR never won a Grand Prix yet. This is their 89th Grand Prix start. One of the younger teams in Formula One. How dearly would they love to break their duck here?
Yes, both these drivers have been in the points in every Grand Prix, and with the well, Barrichello has 2 in third place, so the top 3, as the gap's now down to 2.2, the top 3 have been relentlessly reliable and consistent. But Trulli and Button then shaping up for a grand finale. 8 laps to go as he goes through Casino Square. But, you know, when he gets there, what can he do about it? There is race leader then, down at the bottom of the hill, and that's an extra incentive for Jensen. A back marker coming up. It's Ralf Schumacher with his ailing Williams.
This is fantastic stuff. 8 to go, and Jenson Button has just taken 1.2 seconds out of the lead of Jarno Trulli. There's some anxiety and anguish down in the Renault timing stand. Trulli has got past the Williams. Now Button's got to do the same thing. As Martin said, though, getting up behind the Renault is one thing, passing quite another, as we found out a few years ago with Nigel Mansell and Ayrton Senna here. Mansell forced to make a late pit stop, came out behind Senna and could not pass him. Those of you who followed Grand Prix racing that long will remember the efforts Mansell went to. He almost tried to go around over the top of him, as going around the side was absolutely impossible. Well, the atmosphere down at BAR must be electric. Ted's in there.
Unbelievably electric, James. High tension in here. I tell you why, because it's different to Imola when they finished second behind a Ferrari. They're quicker than Renault now. The car is quicker, and they just have to try and get past him, get close to him. As we heard Jock said, Jarno may make a mistake. Mechanics clench fists, punching at the TV screens.
Gap down to 1.7 seconds. Oh, how much did it cost Jensen when he got hooked up? He pitted very early, got into traffic at the very early stages of this Grand Prix, and it cost him dearly. But he's come back and he's just kept working at it all afternoon. Now he's beginning to be able to read the sponsors' letters on the rear wing of Jarno Trulli's Renault.
And the two garages side by side, the Renault garage and the BAR garage, they were finished one behind the other in last year's World Championship. That means they're next door neighbours at every Grand Prix this season. And this is Grand Prix racing at its absolute finest on a beautiful sunny day in Monte-Carlo. An Englishman is chasing an Italian for their first Grand Prix victory. We look back then from the Renault to see where is the BAR Honda of Jenson Button. There he is, coming into Rascasse corner now.
Jensen's about a tenth up on this current lap in the first two sectors, but Jarno definitely has got such a strong car in the middle sector of this lap, and it's paid dividends this afternoon. The gap was 1.7, is now 1.6. There are 6 laps to go.
Further back, Rubens Barrichello, a full minute behind the race leaders. An odd pit stop sequence for him here this afternoon. Montoya is 4th, Massa is in 5th place for Sauber. Another strong performance from him after his teammate Fisichella was eliminated in that accident, very nasty accident early on with David Coulthard, which flipped the Sauber upside down. Cristiano De Mata looks set to get first points of the season for Toyota in 6th. Heidfeld has held a lot of people up here this afternoon. He's 2 laps down on the race leader in 7th. And Ralf Schumacher currently still in 8th place, 3 laps down on the race leader. But for the last 6 laps, there's only one place to watch. All the champagne glasses will have been put back on the table. Everyone will be sitting on the edge of their expensively lined leather seats on their yachts and watching this extraordinary drama unfolding on the streets of Monte-Carlo as Jenson Button tries to haul in, quite effectively at the moment, you'd have to say, Jarno Trulli for the lead.
Oh, did he go wide down there? He could have recovered it if he did, but he's really pushing as hard as he can. He can't match him in the middle sector. He's much quicker in the first and third sectors. Gap was 1.6, is now 1.4, 5 to go. Running out of time, Jensen. You're going to have to start pulling some 1 minute 15 laps if you're going to get right up there and frighten Jarno Trulli in any way. Trulli looking very composed up front, and his car handling absolutely beautifully.
He is looking very composed, isn't he, Jarno Trulli? It's been a tremendous performance, whatever happens from here on now. Taking pole yesterday with one of the finest laps he's ever driven in a Grand Prix car, leading almost all of this Grand Prix. And he knows that even if Button does get right up behind him, it's going to be mighty difficult for him to get past. He has an advantage in speed in the middle sector of the lap, which is from the Mirabeau through to the swimming pool complex. We saw Juan Montoya make a pass into the first corner early on in the Grand Prix. It is possible to pass into Saint-Devote. It's possible to pass at 1 or 2 places, but you need an awful lot of cooperation to pull it off.
And the problem is, even into Rascasse now, where I believe you could muscle your way through, it's filthy dirty off the line, where somebody blew up in an earlier race today. There's what I'm talking about, all the dust on the side of the track. So I really don't know where he'd do it. It'd have to be down at the hairpin on the other side of the circuit.
Well, this is definitely the shot in the arm Formula One needed. Michael Schumacher dominating the season so far. 5 Grand Prix victories from 5 Grand Prix, but he's not going to win here this afternoon. He's out of the Grand Prix. And one of these 2 men is Trulli, metronomic on his pace. He really has been super consistent. And banishing all criticisms, praying for the laps to just evaporate.
That's what you've got to remember, that the mechanics are just as competitive as the drivers. They have to have a different role at Grand Prix, and they need this just as much as... and this is the unusual thing about the new Monaco layout. If you saw our track guide for the qualifying show, is the team bosses are sort of up in a unit nowhere near the racetrack. It's slightly odd in terms of they don't look over into the pit lane or the exit end of the lap either. Very strange situation. That's why they're appearing to be indoors there. Button had slipped a 10 on the last lap. This is currently a 10th up, but that's all he can do. Is Ralf Schumacher becomes the 11th retirement of the race, putting Panis up into 8th, Baumgartner 9th with the Minardi. Both Toyotas in the points then. We only had 2 teams with 2 cars running. That is now down to 1 with Ralf Schumacher exiting the Grand Prix. 3 laps to go.
Yeah, Baumgartner 5 laps down on the race leaders. If anybody else pulls out of this Grand Prix in the Minardi, he will have a World Championship point. Look how close Jenson Button is now to the Renault of Jarno Trulli. He can almost read the sponsor's name on the rear wing. A grandstand finish in store here in Monte-Carlo. Out of Mirabeau, down to Lowe's. Having to wait for the man in front to hit the gas before you can hit the gas himself. Down to Portier. This is where Ayrton Senna threw it off back in 1988 when he had the race won.
It's almost as if Trulli's tightened up, you know. It's almost like he's now beginning to watch every little slide because he's losing a lot of time to Jenson, and he's just going to have to free himself up inside that racing car. And he's giving the barriers plenty of distance. Jenson's pushing the limits much harder than Trulli at the moment. Trulli with track position, but you sense he's tightening up with so few laps to go.
Well, in some ways, it's easier to be the hunted than the hunted, the hunter than the hunted. There's a bollard in the middle of the racetrack. Did you notice that on the exit of the swimming pool section? Doesn't seem to have bothered anybody. And look how close Button is now. They were 0.9. They are now 0.7, 0.2 of a second. It's too little to even talk about. It's all about racecraft now. It's all about pressure. It's all about psychology. It's all about keeping a cool head. The hard charger, Jenson Button, versus the nearly man, the man who wants to shed that reputation and become a star man for the first time in his career, Jarno Trulli.
That's the problem. And the dirty air syndrome affects you less around here. This is more about mechanical grip than aerodynamic grip. But nonetheless, you can drive the widest Formula One car in the world very easily, especially with the track so dirty offline, as Fernando Alonso, amongst others, found out. Flavio's now beginning to relax, now beginning to think, hey, I think he can do it, because I think if Trulli was going to get flustered, it would have happened by now.
Plenty of face time this afternoon for Flavio Briatore, man who never backward in coming forward, always exuberant in his celebrations when his drivers won, particularly in the old days of Michael Schumacher. He's put this exciting pairing together of Alonso and Trulli, and now it's really starting to pay dividends for them. Alonso already a winner, Trulli just 1 lap away from becoming a winner. But Jenson Button hasn't given up yet. Into Saint-Devote, 60 miles an hour then as they go up the hill. The famous hill, been in use here since the 1920s when a man called Anthony Nogues decided it would be a good idea to let Grand Prix cars loose on the streets of the world, this famous principality. Tax haven for the rich and famous.
Back marker ahead, but I don't necessarily think it's going to come into play, but there is a back marker, and really Jenson's just fallen back now into Trulli's place. Indeed, the Minardi is there. Will he see them coming? He's going to be in the tunnel as they approach him, so it's still a critical moment for the 2 leaders as they head into the darkness and the wilderness of that tunnel. Where are they going to meet the Minardi? And it is after the exit.
The last lap of the Grand Prix, and the Minardi's in the way of Jenson Button. Any chance he had of getting him is now gone, and Button signals to Minardi. It's not really his fault. It's very unfortunate where he caught him. I don't think Button could have done anything much, and that probably has handed the initiative to Jarno Trulli. The final part of the swimming pool, Button's throwing everything, caution to the wind now. He's not going to try a lunge down the Rascasse. He can't, he's too far away. Trulli comes out of Anthony Nogues. He's going to see the man with the checkered flag, and Jarno Trulli is going to win his first ever Formula One Grand Prix. There is the checkered flag, and in the end, Button was just 0.4 of a second behind him. Pat Simmons up on the timing stand there on the right-hand side of your screens, delighted for his man. He's masterminded the race strategies for this team. BAR aren't unhappy today, but they did come close, didn't they? What a terrific Grand Prix.
Fantastic. We're still waiting for Barrichello to finish 3rd at this time, and well-deserved for Jarno Trulli. Absolutely. He's taken a long time to really sharpen his game up, but he's been immense for the best part of 12 months now, and under a lot of pressure, He absolutely was faultless today, had it under control, set his car up beautifully, a brilliant pole position lap, and I'm really, really happy for the guy.
Yeah, I'm very, very happy for him as well. He's had so much bad luck. There's Rubens Barrichello in third place, going to finish 71 seconds behind the race winner.
Could be even more than that because he's just coasting now, but he's got to cross the line. He's the last man that's got to cross the line because he's the only one unlapped. So Rubens must remember not to go in the pit lane. Not that anybody can pass him, but here he comes now. And D'Amata was just 3/10 off Massa. Massa takes 5th, D'Amata 6th. Barrichello now takes his 3rd place as the only unlapped runner. So truly, Button, Barrichello, Montoya, Massa just from D'Amata, Heidfeld, Panis takes the final point. Baumgartner tantalisingly close for a point there. So good news for Jordan then. 2 World Championship points for a rather recalcitrant Nick Heidfeld. And here then is the moment where Alonso, already sweeping a long way around the outside, went to pass Ralph. And when he sees that, he's going to wonder why he went so wide so early. And he's also going to wonder why Ralph didn't back off much earlier in the tunnel.
Well, that's certainly one I would think that the stewards will want to have a look at and a chat about. And then a little bit later on, we had an equally strange incident with Michael Schumacher and Juan Montoya. Well, they couldn't get the win today. They're second once again with Jenson Button. Ted is talking to BAR boss Dave Richards.
David, what a nerve-wrencher. What real guts churning in those last few laps.
It was, you know, closing all the time, but you've seen what it's like to overtake here, and he's held up quite badly in the middle by some back markers, and, well, D'Amata eventually got a drive-through penalty for it. That probably made the difference.
Only second, but such a good drive. The way he closed the gap on Trulli's great.
No, he wasn't going to give up. You know, the great thing about him and the team in general now, we'll take it right to the finish. We're not going to be so easy to say, oh, we can't overtake, let's sit back. No, that's not the style. We're going to take the fight right the way there.
Very well done.
BAR third now in the Constructors' World Championship, just 12 points behind Renault and ahead of the Williams team. So these are halcyon days for BAR. And it must be said for the Renault team as well. A very, very well-deserved victory from what will undoubtedly be a very emotional Jarno Trulli. Yes. Says it all. Formula One's rock and roll team then. In the days of Benetton and Michael Schumacher, they had the best pop music playing in their garage. They lost their way a little bit, but they've certainly found it again now, haven't they?
Button and Trulli then just 1 point adrift between Button's 3rd with 32 points, Trulli 4th with 31 points. It's a good scrap going on there. They're homing in on Rubens Barrichello. Michael Schumacher still well clear up front with his 50 points, but a bit of a sour face today.
Yeah, definitely has. There'll be a lot of talk about that. Nice touch there as Trulli came down the pit straight, went past the teams he's driven for in the past. Jordan, all the mechanics reaching out, giving him a big thumbs up. There's his team boss, Flavio Briatore. And Jarno Trulli has his first Grand Prix victory. Rubens Barrichello will have a wry smile, no doubt, on his 32nd birthday, finding himself on the podium after such a strange... That's a good bit of corporate PR for you.
The Rossi snog, yeah, on the front of your piece of equipment that's just let you win the race. But, that was no lucky victory. That was a very well executed weekend.
Alan Permain there, his race engineer. Patrick Faure, the boss of Renault Sport, the top boss. And there's Herbie Blasch, just steering the race winner towards Prince Rainier, who will once again perform the honours, as he has for so many years, handing out the winner's trophy to Jarno Trulli. There's Jenson Button. What a stunning performance by him again this weekend. As David Richards said, if he hadn't had that problem being held up by Cristiano D'Amata, who was being lapped in the middle part of the race, it might have been a bit different for Jenson Button, but that's Monaco. And there you are. Respect between competitors.
Such chin to saying well done. There was a definite clenching of teeth there, wasn't it? Well done.
Prince Albert there on the left, Princess Caroline of Monaco on the right. Renier presents the trophy to Jarno Trulli, and he is a fully fledged Grand Prix winner at last.
Race number 117 then for Jarno. Jensen just keeps getting on the podium, doesn't he? Amazing. Where's he been? 6th at the first race, third, second, then 8th. The difficult race in Barcelona, now 2nd again this weekend in Monte-Carlo. And Happy Bunny lives in England.
Finally sinks into Jarno Trulli, the magnitude of what he's achieved.
I always expected a Kleenex moment there, didn't you? I thought with Jarno, but he's very, very composed. I got one of those second place trophies from here at home that Jensen's just stepped around, and it means about 10% as much as the one next door to it, unfortunately. The win here is absolutely amazing and everything. But this is one of the best podiums. I don't know why, it's a silly little box, but somehow or other it means more than just about any other podium in the world, with the possible exception of Le Mans.
Well, it's been a real shot in the arm for Formula One. A great Grand Prix, great spectacle. Absolutely no doubt about that whatsoever. The champagne flies on the boulevard of Monte-Carlo. Flavio Briatore getting involved as well. Tremendous race, Martin.
Yeah, I'm sure Jarno appreciated a bottle of champagne in his face there, but he's going to go and find his mechanic.
You're back with us in Monte-Carlo. Jarno Trulli has won the Monaco Grand Prix. Another unfortunate weekend in the season for McLaren and for David Coulthard. David, first of all, tell us about your race. Tell us, because it ended pretty abruptly, didn't it? And we cut short your interview a little bit during the race. You were rather upset by what happened there.
Well, obviously I was disappointed because I love the challenge of driving around Monte-Carlo. It's fantastic, and I felt very comfortable with conserving my tyres. I was a little bit frustrated because you could see that Sato's engine was smoking from the parade lap. You know, our team retired Kimi when they knew he had an engine problem because it's just too risky to allow a car to run and blow up on the track. You know, you put oil down, or as you saw there, the track was just completely covered in smoke.
You made a point, perhaps, there that BA are a young side, a young outfit, very, very keen to win. That if they'd have been rather more pragmatic, they'd have seen that and pulled Sato out earlier.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm not making any friends there, which is not at all the intention. It's an absolute professional observation. Our team has retired Kimi because they knew his engine was going to blow up. if the Honda engineers knew their engine was experiencing difficulties, I think it's the only professional thing to do, because the result of leaving the car out there smoking and then eventually blowing up is that a number of cars have had an incident and one guy was upside down, and that's, you know, they have to understand the consequences of running at the front. They've earned their slot there. They're doing a great job, but maybe they could be a bit sharper there.
Just going back to the start of the race, I think it was your best qualifying position of the season, and you thought Takuma Sato might have got a bit of a jump start on you. I think we can see it down here now. Yeah,
there's no question that it wasn't that he got a jump on me. He went whilst the lights were still red, and I almost jumped the start when he moved. So I'm very, look, you can see there quite clearly, he had a lot of momentum before the lights changed. So I don't know whether the jump start system wasn't working properly, or whether they just decided to turn a blind eye. But for me, he should have been penalised for that.
He certainly wasn't penalised, was it? And Takuma Sato, of course, went on, and when he blew up, it must be the ultimate driver's nightmare, really, with all that smoke, and you're literally driving and you can't see the hand in front of your face.
Well, that's right. I think Mark's got much more experience on the ovals when cars blow up. I think the engineers tell them whether to go high or go low, and at that moment I did think of that movie, you know, and I had no idea whether I was supposed to go high or low. So I came to the inside and was just going pretty slowly, and Montoya pulled up alongside me, and then obviously Fizzy just came over the back of the car, and I could see he was upside down, and obviously was pretty concerned for him, and glad to hear he was okay. It was very confusing actually at that point, because they threw a red flag. So normally that would mean a restart, and then they threw a safety car flag. So it was, I think the organisers made a bad call at one moment. In the end, the safety car was absolutely adequate, but when you see a red flag, all the drivers automatically think the race has stopped.
Sure. How big an impact was that for you when Giancarlo came flying over the top of you? How scary a moment was that for you individually?
No, for me it's not a problem, because the rear wing and the rear crash structure took the brunt of the impact. Seeing another car going upside down, the last time that happened to me was actually with Martin in Melbourne in '96. I saw him disappear rotating upside down, and you know, it's never a nice moment, because you fear for the driver and you don't want to be the cause of an injury for them.
There's lots of instances that I'm going to talk to Mark and Tony about a little bit later on, but just give us your view of what occurred in the dark recesses of the tunnel. Two big incidents in there.
Yeah, for me it's, and I'm sure there'll be lots of opinions, but for me it's quite clear Ralph should either have allowed Alonso to overtake him before they entered the tunnel or after the tunnel. To do what he did, which is kind of half-hearted in the middle of the tunnel, it's crazy. There's one line through there, and Alonso was forced wide, and he's racing the guy in front. He's got to keep pushing, and he was put in a situation that I think that once he was on the marbles, there was no chance for him to come back. And so for me, Ralph was a little bit naughty there. And the Michael situation, clearly he can set the pace because they're still behind the safety car. Quite clearly he was trying to warm his brakes up. But as I was talking with Mark before we came on, and you know, as you saw with Montoya at the restart with Barrichello, he's got a lot of experience from America and doing, you know, these jumps and rolling starts, and clearly he was just trying to keep as close as he could to Michael. So I'm interested to know what the stewards will do on this one. Right,
a word from you about your pal Jenson Button. Didn't win here, but a terrific charge from him.
Yeah, I have to say, I was watching the race with my girlfriend and Marigold Nui at the end there, and I was so nervous. I don't think I've ever been so nervous, because he was catching Jarno, and I really thought that with that sort of charge, if he could catch him and have a go straight away, he had a chance to overtake. I know that if he didn't do that straight away, then he was just going to follow him home. But I'm delighted for him. He's driving so well. His confidence is sky high at the moment, and I'm looking forward to seeing him later.
Just a final word from you about what it means to win here, to triumph in Monaco. You've had that feeling twice. It's very special for every driver.
Yeah, I think that obviously there's only 10 points for this race like any other, but the sensation and the pride that goes with winning here in Monaco continues for many days afterwards, and it's a great event, and you can see here all the glamour that's attached to the event here, so it's a big one to win.
David, it's not the easiest trip to join us up here on the back, and we appreciate you taking the trouble. I know you're enjoying the view, and I'm sure down there you'll be up on the rostrum again very soon. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate that.
Thanks a lot, David. Okay, we are actually hearing that Juan Pablo Montoya is going to have a word with his stewards to explain what happened in the tunnel. Of course, we'll bring you the result of that if we get it before we leave you. But now, let's join the top three in the press conference.
A truly, if I may use the word, historic occasion. Your first win, Renault's first win as a team at Monte-Carlo, and the first win by an Italian here for 22 years. The pressure at the end of the race was outstanding as well.
It's amazing at the moment. I'm so happy for me, for everybody, for all those people which have been supporting me. I've been waiting for so long, and it came the best race in Monaco. It was just fantastic for me. I did a perfect race, been leading from the beginning, and even with Michael on the track, I would have won anyway because I already had the pit. And in the end, I was just managing the race. I was slowing down, taking care of tires and everything, not taking any risk, because anyway, you know that in Monaco you cannot overtake.
Talk us through the closing stages of the race there. Jensen got very, very close at the end there.
It was just down to me, honestly. When I wanted, I just responded to the quickest lap time. But then in the end, I just point to take any risk. I was just handling the race. He closed the gap, but we couldn't anyway get close enough to try to overtake. So, you know, everything was under control.
Well, you seem very calm and composed. What were your thoughts and emotions in those closing laps, and particularly on the slowing down lap as well?
So many things have gone through my mind. You know, I've been waiting for so long. I've been through a lot of bad moments. And the moment I just cannot realize that I won the race and I won in Monaco, the best race probably in the world. So I'm happy. Nothing is going to change for me. I will keep going as I've done for the first part of this championship. And I'm so happy for me, but especially from the Renault team.
Very sincere congratulations. Jensen, what a race from your point of view.
Yeah, I mean, off the line, I didn't get a very good start, and I lost out to Alonso. And then it was really tough. You know, the traffic was so tough. You know, the back markers. But in the last stint, when I was behind Jarno, I know that you can't overtake here, but I had to give everything I possibly could, and maybe push him into a mistake. I know he wasn't pushing 100%, but you've got to try. And you know, I had the possibility of hitting a guardrail, but I want to win so much, so I was pushing as hard as I possibly could.
A brilliant drive. We saw a lot of incidents in this race. One of the major ones, of course, was Michael Schumacher hitting the guardrail in the tunnel. Did you see any of that?
No, because I had already had my pit stop, so I was 7 or 8 cars back. But it was very strange. It's slippery in the tunnel anyway. We normally go through there 160 miles an hour, and you have so much downforce. You don't have a problem with the slippery asphalt. But when you're going that slow, it is very, very slippery.
Well, both you and Jarno had 2 stops. Did the amount of safety car time affect your strategy?
When Alonso hit the barriers in the tunnel, obviously we pitted immediately, and I think it was the correct thing to do so. And I think if Michael had stayed on circuit, I think we would have been ahead when he had made his stop. So the team did a fantastic strategy, but we couldn't catch this man.
Congratulations. Rubens, a distant 3rd place, but a 3rd place nonetheless. You didn't come in, like Michael, when the safety car came out. What was the thinking behind that?
Oh, we had a lot of fuel on board yet at that time. But I must be honest, I was very lucky today just to finish the race, because there was a point in the race that I started to lock the wheels, and I felt that something happened on the rear suspension. And so it was on the safety car. When the safety car came in, I had the chance to go slow through just beside the wall, just to see if they could see something, because I was hitting the ground quite badly, and I was locking the wheels like if the car wasn't behaving quite right from left to right. So it was a question just to go round and round just to finish the race. Really, it was no point on pushing, because I was nowhere. Something must have broken on the car.
What did you see of Michael's incident in the tunnel?
I was further behind, so I couldn't see anything. All of a sudden, I saw some pieces flying, and then I saw Michael just slowing down with the suspension. So nothing that I could have seen.
And what about the Sato engine blow up early in the race?
To be very honest with you, I thought that they should have put a flag to him before, because there was already three laps where he was already putting too much smoke, you know, out of the engine or out of the gearbox. Something was happening there. It was obvious, and there was major drama. I caught the car just when I was going into the guardrail. I was 0 per hour, but I would have damaged my car, because you could see absolutely nothing.
Well, Jarno, final thoughts from you. You started from the pole and you've won the Monaco Grand Prix. It must be starting to sink in now.
It's fine. It's nice to dominate the weekend. I think it was a faultless weekend. I'm extremely happy because it's the best way to win the race, being always on top during the whole weekend.
You're back with us in Monte-Carlo. Confirmation of the result of the Monaco Grand Prix. Jarno Trulli winning a Grand Prix for the first time in 118 starts. Jenson Button, a superb runner-up. Rubens Barrichello, the only Ferrari driver on the podium today. Montoya, fourth for Williams. Felipe Massa getting 4 points for Sauber. D'Amata, 3 for Toyota. Nick Heidfeld, 2 precious points for Jordan. And Olivier Panis, winner here in 96, 1 point for Toyota. And the Drivers' Championship, he did not score today. He remains, though, 12 points ahead of Rubens Barrichello. Another Grand Prix next weekend in Germany, by the way, the European. Jenson Button third, 6 points behind Barrichello and a point ahead of today's winner, Jarno Trulli in the Renault. Montoya 23, a couple ahead of Fernando Alonso. We'll have a look at his incident in a moment in the tunnel. Ralf Schumacher, 12 points for Williams. There's rumours he might just be announcing these shifting to Toyota this week. And Takuma Sato started very fast and then the Honda engine blew. 8 points for the Japanese driver. And in the constructors, 88 to Ferrari. Barrichello scoring for them today, of course. Renault passed the 50 mark. BAR third on 45 points ahead of Williams. Sauber have 7. McLaren 5. Toyota 4. Jordan 2. And Jaguar with just the 1 point.
Fernando, a very unusual incident. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, Ralph was in front of me, he moved to the right into the tunnel, and then when we were side by side, he went in the throttle again until he pushed me in the outside to the barrier. It's an unusual movement, as you said.
So you feel this was an accident directly caused by Ralph?
Yes, like most of the accidents that Ralph is involved.
Are you going to be talking to him about this?
No, I don't lose time. I have more things to do.
Very nasty place to have an accident as well. I mean, it's very high speed there.
Yes, very high speed, but maybe Ralph likes that.
Move on and talk about big brother Michael. For the first time this season, we didn't see the winning jumper on the podium. They're going to have to put some more cameras in the tunnel here in Monaco, I think, to discover exactly what went on here. But apparently, Tony, Juan Pablo has apologised a little bit for this.
Yeah, I say that, but I sympathise with Juan Pablo to a degree. Now, Mark has an opinion on this as well, but you know what Michael likes to do. When he's behind the safety car or when he's on the formation lap in the lead, he likes to control the whole pack. He wanted, whatever he was doing with his brakes, he was slowing down, going backwards and forwards. He did it at Monza in 2000. He compressed the field so badly that Jenson Button was the victim at that time of the concertina. He went off before the race even started, because Michael does that sort of thing.
And we're hearing that Michael is with the stewards at the moment. Anything that you would like to add to what happened there, Mark?
I think the bottom line for me is that he's the leader. He dictates what goes on, whether it's in the tunnel or outside of the tunnel. Montoya just getting back to his old US racing style of rolling starts, trying to make the jump. He made it very early on at Barrichello and done a fantastic manoeuvre. He got a little bit caught out.
OK, let's see what Ferrari's Ross Brawn has to say about it all.
Ross, what's your view of how Michael ended this year's Monaco Grand Prix?
Very unfortunate. You never want to go out of a race for that sort of reason. Michael...
What would you say the reason was? Because there's a bit of speculation around. What do you think he was doing?
Well, we'd informed him the safety car was coming in, and as soon as the safety car comes in, the drivers start to warm their brakes up. And he was warming his brakes up, and Juan Pablo hit the back of him. So... sure the stewards will have a look through it carefully and decide what they felt happened. We don't have all the facts yet, so...
As we've said, well, as we've just seen, Michael and Juan Pablo have just gone down to see the stewards. Is your gut feeling that they'll probably say it's a racing incident, or do you think Juan Pablo has yet again been overzealous in this one?
I'm trying to restrain myself at the moment, because obviously to go out of the race like that's very frustrating, because I think we had a chance. Not a strong chance, but we had a chance of winning a race there. It started to come together for us. We had a lot of fuel left in the car, and Michael would have then had a very good sprint until he made his final stop, and I think it might have been possible, depending on how quickly he could have gone. So it's very frustrating to drop out like that.
Well, Patrick, Ross says that Michael was just warming his brakes up, as you do, and Juan Pablo hit him. Your view?
Well, I think it's on camera, and I mean, there's always going to be two different views of these things, but all Juan has said is that Michael did a burnout, which means accelerating hard, spinning the rear tyres up, and then put the brakes on hard, and one has to wonder whether that's a wise thing to do in a dark tunnel. Juan moved over to the right, and when Michael put the brakes on, his car moved right. So there was a bump between the two, but there's an inquiry going on. The stewards have asked to see them both, so I'm sure they'll make a good judgment on what the outcome is.
Would you expect a top line, a 6-time world champion, to do something like stamp on the brake pedal in the middle of a dark tunnel?
Well, we had a similar problem at Monza for Jenson Button in the year 2000 when Michael was just in front of Jenson and there was a safety car, and on the straight before the start, Michael accelerated hard and then jammed the brakes on and caused Jenson to have to fly off the track in order to avoid going into the back of him. And I don't know, it strikes me that whatever you can say is that it doesn't seem to be a position where the driver behind can react fast enough. And despite what Michael might think, or Ross particularly might think, Juan is not a dirty driver. He's been used to driving for 2 years in Indy cars on high-speed ovals at 240 miles an hour. He knows what respecting your fellow drivers is. So I don't think that there was any dirty tricks in there.
OK, we'll see what happens in the stewards, but thanks very much, Patrick.
Flavio, many congratulations. What a great result. This is the race to win, isn't it?
Yeah. If you put some money in some race to win, it really is Monte-Carlo. But it's not only winning, it's pole position, is have one guy in first row and one guy in the second row, dominate the race, and I think it was great.
It's often been said of Jarno that he's a great qualifier, but he can't keep the pace up during a race. I guess he proved us all wrong today.
Yeah, just before yesterday and today he's done a very, very good job. And in the end, you know, we are a little bit nervous, but, you know, Jenson was quick. And I think it was good for the spectator to keep everything alive.
How concerned were you at the finish? Because Jenson was pushing hard, wasn't he?
Yeah, you know, you're pushing hard. Theoretically, it's nice for the, it's nice for the spectator, but you know, you need to go close, you need to overtake. It's not so simple.
Just a word on Fernando's incident.
I don't know, honestly. I want to talk with Fernando because really I don't understand what happened. I don't know if you guys understand. I don't understand.
Nigel Mansell's record lives on. It's the end now of Michael Schumacher's unbeaten run. An absolutely marvellous drive through the streets of Monte-Carlo from Jenson Button. We salute, though, the Italian Jarno Trulli, winner of Monaco 2004. Bye-bye.